Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve and I took my third hit of the season in game week 10 and it didn't quite work out as hoped. I got my first red arrow in a game week where I've taken a hit this season, making it 2 successful attempts from 3 over the first 10 game weeks of the season. I started the game week just inside the top 25k, and I have slipped all the way down to just outside the top 50k, so currently ranked at 50,392 with a score of 64 minus 4, so 60 points overall with an average of 66. Didn't quite work out, but there are some promising signs from my players. But before we get started, if you're not already a subscriber of this channel, consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. And if you enjoy the following content, give it a thumbs up. So, this is the team on screen. So, as the moves that I made this week as part of the hit was I sold Mbuimo, who got a goal and an assist in a game that Chelsea absolutely dominated, with the goal coming from a late break from a corner that the Chelsea goalkeeper Sanchez had come up for. It was a quick break. Sanchez, by the way, is extremely fast for a goalkeeper. He made it all the way back, but wasn't quite fast enough to stop the counter-attack. The guy that was actually, I forget who it was that was running down on goal, but he could have easily had a shot and scored himself, but instead he laid the ball off to Mbuimo, who had also hauled us to get up the pitch, which makes the hit look that much more disappointing. Congrats to Brentford. They came in with a plan. They played a low block. It was a relatively effective low block. I by far thought Chelsea were the outstanding team on the day, and I will go into Palmer's performance in that match in a little bit, but we'll just go through the hit first. So sold Mbuimo. I also sold Luis Diaz, being unaware of the family situation he's going through, which meant he actually completely missed the game. A devastating situation for Diaz to be in. My thoughts go out to him and his family. Obviously, he came away with 0 points from the match. And I also sold Alvarez, who blanked in City's demolition of United in the Manchester derby. I've been saying on the channel for the last few weeks that I thought United were on track to get absolutely battered by Man City, and I was a little bit worried about selling Alvarez. So I did get a little bit lucky that Alvarez didn't actually get involved in any of the 3 goals that went in the City fixture. But I mean, it could have been, 4 or 5 goals in that match. We are miles off the pace when it comes to a comparison between United and City. But the players that I brought in didn't do amazing this game week, but they did have a fairly good shot at hauling. So Watkins came in for me, as I just could not avoid that Luton fixture in which Villa won the game 3-1. There was a very early ball put into Watkins by my defender, Matty Cash. Sublime pass right the way through, smack bang centre of the goal. Should have been finished by Watkins, but he forces a double save from Kaminsky. That would have been a goal for Watkins and an assist for Cash, which probably would have made the hit almost turn into a green arrow. I think if I get the 3 points for the assist for Cash and the goal for Watkins, I probably come away with a green arrow there. So that was pretty frustrating. There was also another ball sent into Watkins that went straight across the 6-yard box, which he couldn't quite get to. I think he kind of misjudged the pace of it or the bounce of it, or I don't quite know what happened there, but he didn't quite catch up to the ball. It would have been a tap-in. There was a few other attacks as well where he was in the box with in a very good shooting position, and his teammates were unable to find him. It was a very frustrating blank. He came away with 1.4 expected goals involvement from the match, and that doesn't count those, obviously, the parts of the plays where he was actually sitting open, because obviously he didn't receive the ball, and so it won't register against his expected stats. So Watkins blanks, but he could have come away with quite a few points there. I also brought in Saka. Now, we actually got quite lucky with Saka. He was awarded an assist from the corner in which Nketiah scored. Ball came over, the keeper went up to try and palm it out and just got some fingertips to it, which dropped the ball down. Nketiah swiveled and smashed the ball into the top right corner. Very surprised that was actually awarded as an assist. So, although we got a little bit unlucky in some of the other returns around the team, we did get quite lucky with Saka's return there. But we did bring Saka into a match where Arsenal scored 5 goals in the fixture. So it was a smart transfer. We were just super, well, not unlucky. I don't think Saka really had an impact on that game at all, really. He was largely uninvolved for big parts of that match. But Arsenal scored 5 goals. It was the right game to be investing in. We just got the wrong asset. And then the third player, so I had 2 free transfers heading into the game week. The third player that I brought in was Cole Palmer. He was the golden nugget down at 5 million that allowed me to bring in both Watkins and Saka as part of this hit. And I made the move for Palmer after really only watching one game of him playing in that false 9, and I saw enough to think that he looks like quite a decent footballer. Having watched the match against Brentford, I am extremely happy with the transfer in of Cole Palmer, as he was clearly the best player on the pitch in my eyes. He dominated the midfield, controlled the game. He set up his teammates on multiple occasions and should have actually even been awarded a clear penalty. I do not know how that has not been awarded as a penalty. So we have got very unlucky that Palmer didn't have a shot at goal from the penalty spot. But slightly worrying is Pochettino decided to play Jackson up front in the number 9 and actually move Cole Palmer back into the 10, playing in the cam role just behind him. Now, that position suits Palmer to a T. He's got incredibly good vision, knows exactly when to miss out players on the pass. So instead of just an easy sideways pass, he knows when to send the ball a little bit further with pace to generate the attack for the man receiving the ball. He was all over the pitch, like I said, just controlling the game. And I am extremely happy to have him in the squad if Jackson isn't playing up front, because Jackson is incredibly wasteful with the ball. He is not at all up to the Premier League speed, and if he continues to play up front, I will have to reassess the Palmer choice, because Palmer's putting people in on goal, and if it's someone like Jackson who just cannot shoot, cannot hold the ball up, does not seem to be able to feed his teammates in either, it looks like Chelsea are just going to continue to struggle to score. Now, he did also set up Sterling on a couple of occasions, but Sterling also had a very mediocre performance. He failed to connect with some of Palmer's deliveries in which Palmer put him in some very good goal-scoring situations. And so the combination of Sterling not playing well and and Jackson obviously just doing Jackson things that he's been doing all season very much limits Palmer's ability to earn assists in the team. Now, one thing that I am a little bit disappointed on is I don't think Palmer actually had one shot in the whole game. He was on the ball more than enough to probably work his way into a goal-scoring position, but he failed to even register, I think, one attempt in the whole game. So it'll be interesting to see what Pochettino does moving forward. I fear that he is going to try and persist with Jackson, which I think is a mistake, because Jackson maybe is the kind of player that, sort of like a Richarlison, that can maybe come on for the last 10-15 minutes, play against some very tired legs of the opposition, and maybe will have a bit of a better chance to have an impact on the game. I would much prefer to see Palmer back up in that false nine, maybe even a Sterling in the false nine. I really don't know what he's going to do. There's obviously, Nkunku coming back would have a huge benefit on Palmer, but yeah, with the run of fixtures coming up, I'm still going to hold, and I'm still happy to own him, and we will wait and see what is going to be happening there. But yeah, if Chelsea are unable to score goals because of the players that Palmer is putting in, I am going to have to reassess there. So I also gambled on Udogi's fitness, and went. I made my hit earlier in the week, so I actually made the hit I took all my moves on the Thursday in order to catch Saka's price rise. So I pulled in Saka at 8.5 million, saving the 0.1 million, and I was fairly confident that even if Udogi was ruled out, I was probably just going to play Kabore off the bench, because Watkins and Saka against Luton and Sheffield United were just two massive games that I could not turn down, and if I had to do that at the expense of having a Kabore come in off the bench for Udogi, then so be it. We didn't really get any news as to whether or not Udogi was going to be out, and so I still would have run ahead with that move anyway, and I would have, if I had have waited until the end of the week, and it would have cost me an extra 0.1 million to bring Saka in. So I'm kind of ahead on a transfer here by taking the hit. I said in last week's video that looking forward, I didn't really want to be making too many more attacking transfers, because my defense is actually going to be running into some pretty tricky fixtures coming up, and so I took the hit knowing that I was going to secure these players for about 3 to 4 game weeks moving forward, and so I've kind of got slightly ahead on the transfers there, and I can focus on my defense moving forward. But of course, Udogi missed the game, and I got Kabore off the bench for 0 points. Now, this is the second time in 10 game weeks where I've actually had a bench member come in off the bench from one of my players missing out. Both times it has been Kabore. I've been running with a very light bench, and he has come in with 3 points the first time and 0 points in this match. So twice in 10 game weeks isn't actually too bad going. And I would actually be interested to know how many of you with stronger benches out there have done. So let me know in the comments below if you have had bench members coming in more often than 2 times in the 10 game weeks, because I think running with quite a light bench is actually working in my favour. Yes, it hasn't worked out in this one game week, but across a run of 10 game weeks, it's not too bad going. Burn conceded twice and got a yellow card, which earned him 0 points, but he managed to match Trippier's return of 0 points, as Trippier also received a yellow card. We also got quite lucky with Cash's substitution, as he was pulled off 4 minutes before the own goal went in, meaning that anyone out there with Pau, Digne or Konza would have lost their clean sheet, whereas Cash comes in with his clean sheet intact. Maddison had a great game this weekend and earned himself an assist for the Joel Ward own goal. Maddison still dominating the middle of the park in that Spurs team. Son continues to shine, coming away with a goal and maximum bonus. And I'm pretty sure there will be some Son sellers out there ruining their decision to get rid of Son for Saka. Son also made it to 90 minutes for the first time in the Premier League, and he also played 90 minutes for his national team across the last international break. So it does look like Son is back to full match fitness, which actually puts him back in the mixer for captaincy shouts for any upcoming weeks. I wouldn't be too inclined to captain Son if he's only making it to 70 odd minutes, but if he's going to be a 90-minute man, he does enter the captaincy discussion. Salah got very lucky with his goal. So he came away with a goal and a clean sheet with no bonus in this game. He was largely uninvolved in the sharp end of the attack. I was super stoked with the goal though, considering I had the armband on him. Watkins was actually over 100% EO at my old rank of 25k, so there was actually quite a few people out there that did end up captaining Watkins. He's owned by 42% of the game. I don't know exactly what his ownership was at my level because I didn't actually write that down. But over 100% EO is very high. Excuse me. But what an absolute capitulation by both the keeper and the defender to allow Salah to score here. So the retreating defender had a clear header to safety, but he ducked out of the way of the ball. Turner had made a mad run up the pitch and then had completely misjudged the ball, probably because the defender was in line to deal with it. As soon as he missed it, he flailed and armoured it and then pulled his arm back, but by that point he had put himself way out of the picture and Salah had a very easy goal to sink there. So we come away with 16 points with the captaincy. And the big man Haaland comes away with 2 goals and an assist in a game which I have been saying was going to show the vast gap in quality between the two Manchester clubs. If it wasn't for Onana being an exceptional shot stopper in that game, Haaland could have come away with another goal or 2 in that match. He should have probably had a hat-trick in the first half of that fixture. So yeah, that's my 3rd hit of the season. As you can see from the season history here, there was 1 in game week 10 with a red arrow, 1 in game week 8 which I got a green arrow in, and 1 in game week 6 which I also got a green arrow in. So 3 hits this season, but I have managed to save my wild card. I have not used my first wild card yet, and I'm hoping that deploying that wild card a little bit later in the season, probably somewhere in and around game week 19, as late as possible, in order to set up my team for hopefully the Man City double and the Brentford double, or any other doubles that may be announced in and around there, will give me a bit of an advantage on the competition. So, moving forward to game week 11, my defence needs work. I should have also mentioned my keepers. I had a terrible decision between keepers. It was the first time in 10 game weeks where I didn't really have a clear standout goalkeeper option. Johnston came away with 1 point. Turner came away with 2 points. But that was the only tricky fixture for quite a run of fixtures where I was pretty much going to be missing out on any sort of clean sheet from my keepers. So this week I am lining up with Johnston and net away to Burnley. Udogie is at home to Chelsea. He's still currently flagged from being out from the weekend. Cash has got a great fixture away to Nottingham Forest. Dan Burns got a really tough fixture at home to Arsenal. So both Udogie and Burn are looking at very tricky defensive fixtures here. Across the middle of the park, I've got Saka away to Newcastle, Maddison and Son both at home to Chelsea, Palmer away to Tottenham, and Salah, currently with the bus vice captaincy, away to Luton. And then up front, I've got Ollie Watkins away to Forest and Haaland with the bus captaincy on with Bournemouth at home. Bench of Turner at home to Aston Villa, Baldock, who has been injured for a serious run of games all the way since the last time he played was game week 4. So he's missed out game weeks 5 to 9 and made it onto the pitch for the last 19 minutes in that Arsenal fixture, which actually might help me out quite a lot over the coming 4 to 5 game weeks, because Kabore was basically my only playing bench member, and his run of fixtures is horrific. So if I just bring up my fixture ticker here, you'll see Luton down at the bottom, Liverpool home, Man United away, Crystal Palace at home, Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Man City at home. I mean, I do not want to be having Kabore off the bench for any of those games. But Baldock being back, hopefully back into the team, could be a little bit useful if I do get caught a little bit off guard in some of these upcoming fixtures. Although I do not hold out much hope, as Sheffield United defence is not amazing. So over the next, is it 3 game weeks? So over the next 4 game weeks, Matty Cash actually has 3 okay fixtures from a defensive standpoint. Aston Villa currently sitting in 11th on my fixture ticker when ordered by the next 5 game weeks. So he's away to Forest, home to Fulham, tricky fixture away to Tottenham, and then away to Bournemouth. So I wouldn't mind playing Cash in Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth, and maybe not Tottenham either, as he may be able to nip an attacking return there. However, if we look at this run of fixtures from game week 13, it reads Tottenham away, Bournemouth away, Man City at home, Arsenal at home. And so Matty Cash is probably destined to be sold for me in the coming game weeks. I also have Dan Burn, and Newcastle's fixtures also aren't amazing from a defensive standpoint. They are at home to Arsenal this week. Currently, it's at 14th on my fixture ticker over the next 5. So Arsenal at home, Bournemouth away is not too bad. Chelsea at home might not actually be too bad, depending on who is actually playing in that Chelsea team, as they have been struggling to score, as I've just gone through. Man United at home, and then Everton away. So a little bit of a set of middling fixtures for Dan Burn. And then Udogie for Spurs, currently sitting at 16th in my fixture ticker. Home to Chelsea, away to Wolves, at home to Aston Villa, away to Man City, and a home to West Ham over the next 5. These fixtures are also not ideal from a defensive standpoint. So part of the reason why I decided to take a hit in game week 10 just gone was I was aware that all of my defenders were coming up with some relatively tricky fixtures on the horizon, and I was probably going to need to spend some transfers in the defense. And so I really wanted Saka and Watkins for about the next, Watkins for at least the next 4 or 5 fixtures, Saka for an extended run of fixtures, and with all the price changes that were occurring and the fact that I was going to have to deal with some defensive transfers, these are all the reasons that compounded into me taking a hit. And so it looks like I will be focusing on some defensive transfers for the next couple of game weeks, probably, assuming I don't run into any serious injuries. Now, it's actually pretty slim pickings when it comes to bringing in a defender this game week, and it's also a little bit tricky figuring out who to sell first. Now, I would probably want to sell Dan Burn first, because his game against Arsenal at home this week is pretty horrific, and Dan Burn doesn't really come with much attacking threat at all. Whereas Udogie against Chelsea at home, Chelsea are struggling to score when certain players are on the pitch. But Udogie does come also with some attacking threat, so I could see a clean sheet for Udogie. Could also see some attacking returns. However, he is still flagged, and we are a little bit unsure on exactly how bad that injury is. If he's not back this weekend, I'm probably going to have to sell Udogie and play Dan Burn against Arsenal, which is not ideal. But I am hoping that Udogie will be fit so I can play him and get rid of Dan Burn. But where do I go? So at the top of my fixture ticker is Crystal Palace. Now I have owned Johnston in net all season, and they have actually come away with the second most amount of clean sheets over the first 10 game weeks. 4 clean sheets out of 10 for Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are struggling to score goals too, and so whenever they do keep a clean sheet, a lot of the bonus points are ending up on the keeper and the defensive asset. So I am eyeing up an Anderson or a Gahey or someone like that. They do come with very little attacking threat though. I mean, Anderson maybe from some corners, but of course Dan Burn sort of has that as well. So Crystal Palace is probably top of the list. That would mean that I would be doubling up on the Palace defense though. Arsenal is also in my thoughts. They have the most clean sheets over the first 10 game weeks, with 5 clean sheets earned so far, but they are away to Newcastle this week. I do not really want to be bringing in an Arsenal asset this game week. It'll be probably more likely in game week 12, so whoever I don't sell this week out of Dan Burn or Udogie, I will probably look to bring in an Arsenal asset in game week 12. However, as I have been discussing with a few of you in the comments over the last couple of the videos who were looking at Gabriel, I was warning that with the injuries that were floating about and the fact that Gabriel did miss out at the start of the season, that Gabriel is a bit of a rotation risk, and he completely missed out the game in game week 10. And so I will not be looking at a Gabriel in my team. It would have to be a Saliba, or maybe even a Ben White, but obviously that is a lot more investment in the Arsenal defence, and I am a little bit strapped for cash. I've got 0.3 million in the bank. Udogie has 4.8 million. He may be dropping in value, so I bought him. What did I actually buy him for? Probably should have checked this out. So Udogie purchase price, I actually bought him at 4.8, so I'm only going to get 4.8 back, so I can go up to about 5.1 if I was to upgrade. I don't even think that's enough for the likes of Saliba, definitely not enough for Ben White. But if I am going to invest in Arsenal, I am going to have to probably scrimp and save with my other transfers. So I will have to keep that in the back of my mind if I am looking to invest in Arsenal in game week 12. I'm not overly enthused about investing in the Brighton defence. I would have probably contemplated someone like a Stupinan for the next few run of fixtures, but he is still injured. Brighton also haven't actually kept a clean sheet in 10 game weeks so far. These are a great set of 3 fixtures in which they could probably keep clean sheets though. But if I was looking for someone nailed on, it might have to be like a Lewis Dunk or someone like that. That doesn't really excite me. I'm really looking for players with multiple routes to points that has some sort of attacking threat. Simicast is probably very high up my list. In fact, it's probably going to be a split decision between a Palace defender and Simicast. However, the first game that I watched Simicast play in game week 9, where they played, where's they gone? Liverpool. They played Everton. Simicast fouled the man that he was marking on about, 600 occasions. It was ridiculous how often Simicast was actually fouling his man. I'm pretty sure that's why he was brought off early in game week 9. I'm actually surprised he didn't receive a yellow card in that match. However, watching him in game week 10, Liverpool basically dominated possession of the ball, and so Simicast didn't really have to do a hell of a lot of defending. So it's a little bit hard to tell whether or not he is going to continue to foul his man, earn yellow cards, and potentially earn early substitutions. But Liverpool's run of Luton away, Brentford at home, who will probably play similarly to what they did against Chelsea, which was a low block, basically didn't have any possession throughout most of that match. City away is obviously going to be very tough, but then Fulham at home and Sheffield United away. 4 out of those 5 fixtures, I see Liverpool dominating possession of the ball as well. And so maybe we get lucky that Simicast doesn't actually have to do too much defending and doesn't end up consistently fouling the opposition. So I could look at bringing Simicast in. So it's a very close decision at the moment between Simicast and a Palace defender. I have absolutely no thoughts of investing into Manchester United. There are reports that Varane was actually fit and ready for that fixture against Man City, and Ten Hag made a tactical decision to play Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans against Man City. I do not at all understand that decision-making process. I will not be going anywhere near the Man United defence, and every other team kind of looks like it's a pretty bad run of defensive fixtures, and so it's really only Liverpool or Palace that I am probably looking at. So I will probably mull over this decision throughout the next couple of days, and I will arrive at the decision before I make my team selection video, probably on Thursday New Zealand time or out on Wednesday over in the UK. But that is it for this Game Weeks video. So if you did enjoy this video and got something out of it, press the like button and consider subscribing. And if not, that's all good too. I appreciate you watching. And until next time, cheers.